Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday empowerment training. On your mark, get set, and go. This class is called our SALT, our sharing and learning together. This class is for our ages 9 through 12-year-olds, but it is open to anyone and everyone who wants to just learn more about the Lord and learn more about God's Word and our Bible. Also on your screens, you can see all of our Sunday school class times and our classes that we have. Please feel free to join us virtually and in person. We have classes starting at 8 a.m. at our 5151 Winchester location and 11 o'clock at our North Memphis location. And you can find also us on Facebook and YouTube. So like and share, please like and share. Also, our church location. We have worship times at our North Memphis location, which I am a little biased to, at 12:30 p.m. and also at our East location at 9:30 a.m. Again, with our wonderful Bishop Brandon B. Porter, who's our senior pastor, and our Sunday school under the leadership of Paula Butts, and our superintendent in North Memphis, Sister Annie Hunt. Again, I am Sister Kim Ballard, and I am here with our SALT training class. Enjoy our lesson on today. I think you're gonna enjoy our lesson. I think you're gonna just really have a good time with our lesson today. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get started with our lesson. And our let me go back to our first slide here. Our lesson today is coming from John 2, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And the title of our lesson for our young people is called The Miracle. It's the same lesson that the adults are learning from, but we're going to try to cater it for our young people and for the young at heart. So if you feel like you're young at heart, so please just jump on in here in this class and just feel free to join in with us. So as we dive deeper into this lesson on today. Again, this is the story about, and it's a famous story of how Jesus turned water into wine at the famous wedding. And a lot of other things come from this lesson that people, want to stick on the fact that he turned water into wine, and is it okay for people to drink and all of this stuff. We're not going to get into any of that because our young people, you guys are not supposed to be drinking anyway. So we're not going to get into that, but we want to focus on the miracle, just like the lesson title says, the miracle. We are going to focus on Jesus performing one of the first miracles of his prophetic and his professional career. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And as we focus on that, we're going to answer a few questions to kind of get us in the mind of thinking and how we're supposed to approach this lesson, and just kind of different perspectives that we probably hadn't even thought of as we were thinking about this miraculous thing that Jesus did by performing water into wine. So our Bible basis, again, our lesson scripture is coming from Second John 2, verses 1 through 12. Our memory verse for our young people, you can either record this or you can come back and look at the recordings. If you don't have a Sunday school book, our memory verse is the 11th verse of John 2. So our memory verse reads, "This beginning of miracles," which is what we're going to be talking about here today, "did Jesus in Cana of Galilee, and manifested forth his glory, and his disciples believed on him." Go back up to our Bible truth. Our Bible truth tells us that Jesus always gives his best to us, or gives the best to us. And that is comforting to know. That is awesome. Awesome revelation to know that Jesus gives his best to us when we're his children, just like any parent would. Any parent that loves their child and wants to take care of their child, they're going to give them the best. They're going to give them what they didn't have, per se. So we know that because God is our Father and Jesus is our Heavenly Father, that he's going to give us his best. And it doesn't take away from his best for someone else versus his best for me. Now, because he loves us as he does, the best that God has for me may be different from God's best for someone else. Just because God's best for someone else may be a new Lexus car. His best for somebody else may be a Nissan, Toyota Corolla, I don't want us to get caught up on, he gives the best, and the best is going to be the cream of the crop, but it's the cream of the crop for us, what we can handle as being the best. And for our young people, his best may be, certain types of clothes. It may be a new cell phone. It may be a new laptop. It may be a new hoverboard that you guys like to play on, or a new bike or something. So his best, just like what any parent would, they make provisions and give their best to us. Again, I love our lesson aim, and I always try to target our lesson aim around our teaching. Our lesson aim says that by the end of today's lesson, again, we're going to do 3 things. I love the 3 points that our lesson aim makes. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to discuss Jesus's response to Mary. And this is Mary, his mother. So we're going to get into that a little bit later. So when Mary, his mother, approached him and told him what the problem, what the situation, what the dilemma was, we're going to see what his response to her was. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to reflect on Jesus's transforming power in our lives. That when we accept Jesus, when Jesus comes into our lives, there is a transforming power. There is a transformation that happens in us and around us and through us, for not only just for us, but for others as well, for other believers and other non-believers as well. And just because you're 9, 10, 11, 12 years old does not mean that Jesus does not work through you. Does not mean that he does not abide in you, where your friends can see the Jesus in you. You all can live and be an example of showing your classmates and your siblings and your friends how to be good Christian young people. You don't cheat on tests. You don't talk about your classmates. You don't make fun of, and as we used to call it, checking. You don't check your classmates. You don't listen to certain rap songs. You don't listen to certain music. You don't dress a certain way that's inappropriate for a young person of God and of Christ. So there's a transformation, there's a transforming power that happens in our lives when we accept Jesus, and when he stands in the position of being our Father. And the third thing we're going to do here, we're going to share with others, just like we were just talking about their transforming power in our lives. We're going to share with others why the power of Jesus is necessary. So you're going to be that example. You're going to talk to your friends. You're going to talk to your loved one. You're going to talk to anyone you come in contact. You're going to talk to me, and you're going to tell me how important and how necessary it is for Jesus to be in our lives, because he's necessary in your life. And what better example to give someone else about how important Jesus is than to show us how important he is in your life. So when we go forth with our lesson here, and we're going to go on to our next slide here. So our verses here. And one of the things that we want to, the first section we're going to talk about is who was at the wedding. Who was at the wedding? This is John 2, verses 1 through 2. And the first few verses, it tells us, basically who was at the wedding. When we think about who, when we get to these verses, we're going to start showing who was at this wedding. So the verse 1 and 2 says, and the third day, there was a marriage in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. And both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. So a little bit background to this before we even get to this verse or these verses. We want to tell you about the book of John. The book of John is authored by John, one of the disciples, and one of the disciples that is being quoted, Jesus is being quoted as saying, whom Jesus loved, the one that Jesus loved, meaning his, the one that he probably felt like may have had just a closer relationship, almost maybe like a best friend, if you will. And it was probably written around 85 AD, or maybe later, maybe around 50, as early as maybe as 50 AD, somewhere around there. Also, the focus of John is not only just to tell these wonderful stories and these wonderful miracles and these wonderful things that happen with Jesus walk in his ministry, but it's also the focus of this gospel is the wonders, are the miracles, is the miracles of Jesus. Of John, in comparison to the other synoptic gospels, which is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they all tell the same similar stories and similar situations and similar circumstances along Jesus's life. But John here, he focuses more so on the signs and wonders, and i.e. those miracles that Jesus performed, more so than just the teachings, and more so than just the revelations of Jesus and his teaching and him preparing his disciples, but more or less on on the miracles, if you will, that Jesus actually performed. It is also you can also think about that because this was a marriage, it was perhaps someone that Jesus and maybe his mom Mary both knew very closely. It could have been a relative or a very close family friend. We would like to think that maybe it was a relative that was getting married, because as you can see later on in the verses, when Mary does go to Jesus and approach him about a situation about turning that water into wine, that would lead us to think that she had to have been very close to the family, for not only for her to take on that situation and to feel like she could do something about it, but also to even bring it to the hands or the footsteps of Jesus for him to do something about it. But we're gonna get into that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want you young people to kind of pace yourself with me this evening. Also, we think about when verse 1 and 2 says the third day there was a marriage. Well, this marriage in Cana was a week-long celebration, as long as a week. Sometimes marriages and wedding celebrations, they would last a week or two, or or even longer than that. And they were held over several days, because you have to keep in mind this wasn't the days where they could Uber to Cana. This wasn't the day where they could get a Lyft driver to take them, across the Galilee or over to Canaan. This were times where they were walking, or they rode donkeys or whatever. So people that had family members that were far away or in neighboring towns, or across deserts or across the ways, they wanted to enjoy that celebration. They wanted all of their friends and their family and their relatives to come and enjoy. So the marriage may would be scheduled for today, but that relative may not get there until this Thursday. So when that relative get there Thursday, we're still going to celebrate. We're still going to make this worth them coming and enjoy the celebration of them even making the trip to come and celebrate their wedding. So that's why we when verse 1 talks about the third day there was a marriage. We realized that in the previous verses, Jesus was constantly traveling. He was constantly, he had just come away from grabbing his disciples and picking them out, hand picking them, and letting them know, and basically encouraging them that you guys are gonna follow me. I want you to follow me. And now they're getting ready to go to this wedding. So they're getting ready to go to this wedding. Verse 2 again says, and both Jesus was called and his disciples to the marriage. So again, this was someone that they knew, of course, and this wasn't someone that called Jesus because of the miracles he was doing and because of all of the miraculous things he was doing. He hadn't yet started this yet. He hadn't yet started performing his miracles. So the people that was called him to this wedding, or he was invited, if you will, they didn't know anything about Jesus being able to turn water into wine, or feeding 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, or 2 loaves of bread, whatever it is. They hadn't yet experienced this part of him, but they will experience this part of him. So how blessed would it have been to be at that wedding and experience this? This would have been awesome. So verses 3 through 5, it reads, and when they wanted wine, and this is not, we're not going to get into the debate of what kind of wine this was, but the Bible calls it wine. That's not the point. The point to it is that he turned the water into wine. And when they wanted wine, the mother of Jesus, being Mary, his mother, said unto him, they have no wine. Jesus said unto her, woman, what have I to do with thee? My hour is not yet come. His mother, Mary, said unto the servants, whatsoever he saith unto you, do it. I took that to interpret that. First of all, I've been listening to this song by Rance Allen, by the Rance Allen group. If you guys know it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what song I'm finna go to, called Miracle Worker. And he talks about that part of Jesus' miracle where he turns the water into wine. And every time as I was studying this lesson, that song kept coming to my mind. And also that's the song my mom has been listening to all like every day, every day she listens to Rance Allen. But anyway, that song immediately came into my spirit. So I wanted to download a little bit of it, but I couldn't. So I didn't want to get into copyrights and all this stuff. But you guys know the music that I'm talking about. And so this represented the first of his miracles. And this first miracle that he performed is almost like a public announcement of his ministry, the start of his ministry. And also want to keep in mind and think about that when he performed this, turn this water into wine, who was around? Who was there? Who was there to actually witness and know that this water was turned into wine, and that he, Jesus, Joseph's son, Mary's son, actually was the one to have done it. So this represented Jesus actually taking the helm and saying, okay, I'm ready to go about and be about my father's business more so. This is now the time that I need to become public and let people know publicly who I am and what I represent, and that I am about my father's business at this point in time. The miraculous occurrence, verses 6 through 10. And I'm not going to be before you long because we've only got 30 minutes here to get through these verses, but they're very good verses, and they're it's almost like a story, but it's so many different nuggets in here. But I want to keep on track about the miracles, just focusing on the miracles and the miraculous occurrences here. So at this part in verses 6 through 10, it reads that there were set there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece. And we're going to talk about what that firkin is and how much one firkin is. So imagine, I want you to remember that 2 or 3 firkins apiece. Jesus said unto them, fill the water pots with water. And they filled them up to the brim. And he said unto them, draw out now, and bear unto the governor of the feast. And they bare it. When the ruler of the feast had tasted the water that was made wine, and knew not whence it was, but the servants which drew the water knew, the governor of the feast called the bridegroom, and said unto him, every man at the beginning doth set forth a good wine, and when men have well drunk, then that which is worse. But thou hast kept the good wine until now. Well, this is quite a lot that to take in right here at this point right here. So at this point, we understand that Jesus turned this water into wine. So his mom comes to him and tells him, son, they ran out of wine. So I need for you to do what you do and turn this water into wine. And he tells her, lady, woman, what? It ain't my time to do that. It ain't my time to do that. What does that got to? First of all, what they got to do with me? That ain't my time to do that. Why are you asking me to do this? But then his mother, being Mama Mary, being the mother of Jesus, knowing what he was capable of, she turned around to the servant and said, "Well, whatever he say, do. I'm not even bothered by it. I'm not even worried. I'm not even concerned because I know he gonna do what he do, and what he gonna do is make this thing work. He gonna do something to fix it." And when I read in the commentaries, and when I read in some of the commentaries of the Sunday school book and other readings, she didn't. Part of her was her confidence in knowing who he was, knowing that he was Jesus, and he was able to do something miraculous and do something more than what we kind of expected. But it also could have come from this humanistic level of that was her son. And some of the readings and some of the studying said that perhaps Joseph had been deceased at this point, that he had probably have passed on, and um and Jesus kind of being the oldest, being the man of the family now, he was looked upon as being responsible. He was looked upon as being, okay, the man of the hour, the man of the hour, the man to take on and take care of his family, be the man of the family. So his mom was coming to him, Mary was coming to him, not only just saying, well, Jesus, I know that you are a miracle worker and that you can make these things happen, but also as you're my son, you are the one that I trust in. You are the one that I'm looking to help fix this situation, whichever way that it can. And it's just like our parents may do to you. That's the same way your parents, as our young people, your parents may come to you and look to you to handle certain things because they know that simply you can handle them. You know what to do. You know how to fix them. I've got a brother that's very good with his hands. He can fix electronic stuff. He's always been good about that. So when my washing machine broke, I called him. I called him before I called a repairman. And if he couldn't fix it, then he told me what to do and what to tell the repairman. So that's almost like this same situation where Jesus' mom, Mary, was looking to Jesus not as, okay, I want you to turn this water into wine, but I just know that you're going to fix it. Whichever way you choose to fix this situation, you're going to fix it. And also keep in mind that during this wedding celebration, it was considered highly embarrassing, disrespectful, or just very laughable to have a wedding celebration, a feast, if you will, and you run out of something to drink, you run out of something to eat. How many times have you gone to a party and they ran out of food? Oh, how embarrassing. And sometimes, y'all know, we like to talk about people when they run out of food at a party. You've invited 50 people, but you only had enough food for 10. That's embarrassing. And that's what Mary did not want this, evidently, this loved one, this relative, to be embarrassed about not having enough wine, by not having enough beverage to continue on with the celebration. So again, when we think about this wedding, this celebration, these festivities, this wasn't just a regular party, just that, just to be having a party, but this was a wedding celebration. And these wedding celebrations sometimes were the highlight of a town for the whole year. To have a wedding like this was like everyone in that town, everyone in those families got together and celebrated their wedding. So this wasn't just like me throwing a Super Bowl party, that comes there, every once in a while, or, a birthday party or something like that. But this was a huge event. Imagine this being a party where everyone in town is invited to. Everyone in the town, everyone on all the streets get to come to. So you want to make sure you have enough food, enough beverage, enough things to share with your guests. Also, we think about what that firkin is. And I pulled this up because I want you guys to keep in mind. I told you we was going to talk about this firkin. One firkin is equal to 10, about 11. They said roughly about 10 gallons. And 10 gallons is equal to about 41 liters. So you put that in perspective, one firkin. So if you imagine one of those water jars being large enough to put in there 10 gallons of milk, or 10 gallons of juice. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of beverage. That's a lot of fluids. One firkin is like 10 gallons. You know how many gallons of milk that is? That's 10 gallons. Then if that ain't large enough for you, think about how many 2-liter sodas. So that's almost 22-liter sodas. Because 10 gallons, one firkin is 10 gallons, and those 10 gallons is the same as 41 liters. So if you got a 2-liter soda, those big 2-liter sodas that you buy from the grocery store, you've got about 20 of those. That's a lot of beverage. That's how many people was at this celebration to have a need to have almost 22 liters of sodas and beverage. So I just want you guys to kind of keep in mind and look at perspective that this miracle wasn't just he turned a cup of water into wine or a gallon of water into wine, but he turned gallons. He turned liters, plural, with S's. So my young people, if you think about how big of a miracle this is that Jesus performed, and it was probably something minor to him, but this huge in our perspective, because you can imagine turning 10 gallons of milk into wine. And I want you, and my young people and my older people, whoever's listening, I want you guys to understand and realize that you are not too old or too young for God to work in your life and perform miracles. There is nothing too hard for God to work out in your life. If you need something from God, He is that to you, and He can be that to you. Sometimes our miracle that we want and need is a miracle of healing. Sometimes it's a miracle of finances. Sometimes it's a miracle of restoring family relationships or relationships with other friends and other people. Maybe it's a miracle of being having a relationship with your school teacher or your classmates at school, or being on a basketball team and winning a game, and having, a good score for the school year, or winning the championship. So whatever it is, nothing is too big or too small for God to perform as a miracle. And I want us to know that God loves us enough where He can perform those miracles for us. So because you're a young person, you can go, you can still pray to God. You can ask God to turn those things around in your life, as far as those things being miracles and what you need in your life. So don't ever feel like you cannot ask God for a miracle. And as we ask some of our questions, what was the miracle that was performed? Who was at the wedding? Well, we know that it was John. I mean, it was John. He was there because he wrote the story, but it was Jesus, his disciples, and his mom. They were the invited guests to the wedding. What was the miracle? He turned water into wine. We also look at, real quickly before my time is far spent, that those six, when we talk about those six firkins, uh, that the powerful symbol represented Jesus' purpose. Him being him turning this water into wine was a symbol. It was his stepping out. It was him taking basically letting it be known publicly that he will be about his father's business, and he will be preaching the gospel. We also look at that it represents purification from sin. So turning that water into wine was symbolic of purification, of a purification a process. Also, the number six represents the biblical number of man and imperfection. Again, when we talk about purification from sin, wine is also symbolic of blood. Jesus replacing ritual purification with divine blood. So we get all of these things in Him turning this water into wine. And when you think about this story, you don't really look at it that deep, but it is that deep. And it's a wonderful depth to this story. Also, Jesus had compassion for the people that He turned water into wine. He could have easily just said, "No, I'm not turning water into wine. Y'all don't need to be drinking this wine. No, this ain't that type of part." But He had enough love and compassion for the people to know that they needed wine. They needed this beverage. He did that for them. And He's got so much compassion for us that He will consider what we need and what we want as well. Again, no request is too big or too small for Jesus when He loves us, and He is and He's taking care of us, and He's seeking and we're seeking after Him as well. So when we think about what who Jesus is to us, then we can do those things as well. So what did, and as we get to our next slide, and I'm going through here pretty quickly. The master of the banquet, what did the master of the banquet say? If we can think about what the master of the banquet said, he said, "Oh, you bring out the good stuff. Usually, most people bring out the good stuff at the beginning of the wedding. Oh, but you saved the good stuff for last. Oh, wow! And it's the really good stuff. So when Jesus turned that water into wine, He didn't just turn it into some cheap wine. This was the best of the best, the cream of the crop. So again, when Jesus performed miracles in our life, He don't just perform little teeny tiny miracles that be like, oh, just some little Rudy Poo just to go sit us down and quiet us down. But He performs miracles that only He can get credit for doing. That it's so big and so grand and so wonderful and so perfect that He gets the credit for. But it's also so wonderful and miraculous that we know that only He could have done, and that it's so good that there's no imperfections with it as well. So we also think here that the last of the verse, and I'm moving right along here, that with with the last of the verse says that the beginning of the miracles did Jesus in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed on him. After this, he went down to Capernaum, he and his mother, his brother, and his disciples, and they continued there not too many days. So the last part of this verse is after he's performed this miracle in the wedding in Cana of Galilee. I'm sure the word kind of got out, and then further reading shows that this is after this point. This is where he goes down and he goes to the market and he runs all these money changers out from. He said they're making his temple a den of thieves and everything. So again, I know I went through this lesson pretty fast, but I wanted to make sure I give you guys all these wonderful and good nuggets that's in this lesson. I'm so thrilled that you guys are able to be a part of this lesson. So if you guys had any questions, please put them in the chat, and we will make sure that we try to go back and answer them if we possibly can. Also, again, we invite you to our Sunday school. We invite you to just to be a part of our church, to just be a part of our service. And we just thank you guys for giving us this opportunity, or giving me this opportunity to be here with you in Sunday school. So again, you guys, we thank